Good evening, and thank you for tuning in tonight. I am New York City Councilman Chaim and
Hi, Councilman. How are you?
Good.
How are you holding up in this cold weather?
Holding up great. That's what a coat is for. I got my coat, my scarf, my earmuffs, and my gloves. So we're all good.
Yes. And the big question, were your streets cleaned?
My streets were clean. You're going to hear about that a little bit later in the radio program. Where you're going to be listening to the commissioner of the Department of Sanitation. And yes, I was driving around last night, and I've seen the trucks driving up and down the streets, and the streets are pretty okay now, except for the cold. It's a little frozen in some parts, but people need to be careful. And if you don't have to go out, stay home. That's what I do all week, and everything's done on Zoom. And but tonight I came into the studio. I drove very carefully, and everyone makes fun of me saying how slow I drive, even when there's no ice or snow on the road. I don't want to say who.
And there you are in
my
the
wife.
studio by yourself, with social distance. You're amazing, Councilman.
Yeah, I'm social distance from my family now. First of all, I want to wish all our listeners a very happy 8th day of Hanukkah. And I love driving through the streets of Brooklyn and seeing the lights of the menorahs shining through so many windows, and it's always a beautiful and inspiring experience. And Dr. Fay, before we get started, I just want to say we have a very special guest tonight, and I did not put it on my promo. I did not announce it. And I don't think you know who it is. Right?
I don't.
No.
I don't. I can't wait to hear.
It's a surprise. It's a surprise. When I left my house, I said we're going to have a surprise guest on the phone, on the radio program, and my whole family, everyone goes, "Oh, who is it?" I said, "Well, you're going to have to tune in." So let's say hello to the acting consul general at the Israeli consulate in New York, my friend Israel Nitzan, who is joining us to share Hanukkah message with our listeners. So welcome, Israel.
Thank you so much, Chaim. Thank you so much for inviting me again to your radio show. Thank you.
Always a pleasure having you. Always a pleasure. We spent time over the summer. We had meetings. We met with many people, many different community activists, and you really contribute so much to New York. And it's always great having you and working with you throughout the year.
Well, thank you, and thank you. I should thank you as well for the engagement and for working with us, and for introducing so many people from diverse communities actually to the consulate. It's very important for us to reach out to people, and I appreciate your assistance.
Yeah, and it's so important, that people listen, people hear you. The relationship needs to continue. The relationship New York City has with the State of Israel, the relationship the United States has with the State of Israel, and now you have the UEA, the UEA. The UAE, who's a big part of it, and I see Michelle Divan, our mutual friend, who is at the UAE. And she's really having a great time. They're lighting the menorah every day with the United Emirates, and
with Emirates,
yeah, and it's really amazing to see that, and how many more countries that the United States is aligning with, and that's so beneficial for the State of Israel.
Yes, we live in extraordinary days, I think, and we're celebrating today the 8th day of Hanukkah, and it brings with it, I think, that especially this year, lessons of victory, of hope and resilience, and in many ways, I think that this is what we're celebrating today. These days in Israel, we're celebrating the prospects of peace and hope in our region, the Abraham Accords, signed between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain have been a source of light and hope and bringing peace and collaboration. Only last week we had a delegation of Israelis, about 400 Israelis attending a high-tech conference in Dubai, signing MOUs, and now we have also Morocco joining in and expressing its intention to normalize the relations with Israel. This is extraordinary,
and it's truly amazing and monumental. So I just want to wish you, Israel, a Chag Sameach, and it's always, like I said, it's a pleasure working with you and dealing with you, and all your contributions that you have made here in New York City. And my colleagues in the City Council and the Jewish Caucus could definitely agree with that, because we had the pleasure of having you at the Jewish Caucus several times, and it's so important. And even with the trips we had to Israel with the JCRC, bringing delegation of members of the New York City Council who really never had any idea about the state of Israel and all the things that they have learned and they have seen. So we're at a point that we're seeing, peace between Israel and the Arab countries. So, let's hope that this is a good start and a good future for the state of Israel, a good future for the United States of America. So
I should thank you for being such a great friend. And yes, we have a lot more to do with the City Council, with the City of New York, in order to expand even more our relations, the relations between the State of Israel and the city. And I want to wish you and your listeners also a happy and blessed, healthy Hanukkah, and I'm sure to stay safe, well, and healthy. And I think that the most important thing right now is also to stay warm. And Chag Sameach to you.
Chag Sameach. Thank you so much. Thank you, Israel. So you just heard from the acting Consul General at the Israeli Consulate in New York, and that was Israel Nitzan. Speaking of last night's storm, tonight's first guest is newly appointed acting commissioner of the Department of Sanitation, Edward Grayson. And we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we return, we will welcome Commissioner Grayson. So we'll be right back.
Thank you for tuning in to
TCN Talk Live Network Radio, America's #1 Jewish program.
Tonight's broadcast of Chaim on the Radio is also graciously sponsored by Kosher Palace Supermarket, located at 2818 Avenue U at the corner of East 29th Street in Brooklyn. Kosher Palace has been serving the community for over 20 years. They are a one-stop, full-service supermarket featuring everything you need, all at one location. From kosher groceries, fruits, vegetables, fresh meat, chicken, fish, sushi, fresh, delicious takeout, and so much more. They have it all at the greatest prices and the friendliest service in town. Kosher Palace is located at 2818 Avenue U, corner East 29th Street. Plenty of free parking available. Check out their weekly specials. For delivery of more information, call them at 718-743-1900. That's 718-743-1900, or email them at orders@kosherpalaceonline.com. Palace Kosher Supermarket is a proud sponsor of Chaim on the Radio and urges you to listen every Thursday night at 10 p.m. to Councilman Chaim Deutsch and his informative program. BDL BioDiagnostic Laboratories Incorporated is a fully automated and computerized medical laboratory serving New York and New Jersey, and is licensed by the New York State and New York City Departments of Health, as well as the State Department of Health of New Jersey and Connecticut. BDL offers rapid COVID testing, quantitative and qualitative antibody testing, with results available via portal and email within 24 hours. Testing is available at their Brooklyn location, or they come to you, including to shuls, yeshivas, and organizations. Doctors can also benefit from BDL services. Be safe and get tested. BDL Labs is located at 2115 Avenue X in Brooklyn. To schedule a COVID testing at your shul, yeshiva, or medical practice, please call BDL Labs at 718-646-6000. That's 718-646-6000. BDL BioDiagnostic Laboratories is a proud sponsor of Chaim on the radio. Are you getting headaches at home or displaying symptoms of allergies? Tired of that funky smell invading your home but don't know where it's coming from? The chances are that you might have mold. Mold grows in your walls and ceilings. It's important to take action fast. Ari's Mold Removal has been helping homeowners for over 20 years and will check out your home with their experienced professional testers. They're experts in mold removal and are here to help you. Listen to Ari's Hanukkah special. Now you can have your entire home tested for only $129, a $100 savings over the regular price of $229. And that's not all. If you do have mold, they will deduct $129 inspection fee off the entire job. So don't wait. Call Ari's Mold Removal at 718-336-7500. That's 718-336-7500.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Here is your host.
Welcome back, and you're listening to Chaim on the radio. And we are pleased to welcome Commissioner Edward Grayson of the Department of Sanitation. Commissioner Grayson was appointed as acting commissioner in September. Yesterday was the first big test on the job, managing the response of a snowfall larger than anything I could say that we have seen since 2016. We forgot what snow looks like. Commissioner Grayson rose to the challenge, and I am very impressed to see how smoothly the DSNY's response was. And I went out late last night. Yes, they said don't go out, but I went out and drove around my district for a while with my chief of staff, Tova Rosenfeld, and yes, my wife joined me. And we drove around and just to look, at any power outages, how the streets look. And I'll tell you one thing. I've seen, and I was so impressed, how to see the plows and the salt trucks all over the place. And I also want to give a shout-out to my office, my chief of staff, Mary Scarf, and my staff members, because they were fielding calls literally all night, emails, and they were checking the machines, any issues that came about. And we had very few calls overnight, and that is only because sanitation was out there in full swing. So let's welcome Commissioner Grayson of the New York City Department of Sanitation. Good evening.
Good evening, Councilman. I'm so glad to be on your show tonight.
I'm glad to have you. And I'm glad to be in the studio. I was able to actually drive through the streets and get here. So one thing I could tell you, that when I called your office this morning, I said, you didn't sleep last night. So tell us about your experience the last 24 hours.
Well, yeah, I have to tell you, this storm was forecasted to be very substantive. This is an interesting storm event because, when you look at some of the total depths that have been reported, 11 inches and change, across the city, depending on where you are. The only reason why it was that was because we got a lot of sleet mixing in. Especially, you saw that happening in your commands over there, and on South Brooklyn side, a little bit more warm air came in with the moisture, but that just makes that, you were out there. It was getting sleety, very windy. So I was very worried about, just overall how the safety of the men and women of the department, because we gave specific orders last night. Be very slow, be very methodical. Make sure you're looking out for the public while you're out there. Most importantly, also make sure they're looking out for themselves, while they're out operating the equipment. And it was rough conditions. You saw it firsthand. Your commitment to the constituents that you service and all of Brooklyn and all the city. You were out there because you care, and our men and women care, and they were out there too. And I'm so proud of what we were able to do in those treacherous conditions.
People don't realize the difficult job. When the garbage doesn't get picked up, you get complaints, right? People say, "Oh, my cardboard, my recycling wasn't picked up." Like, a few houses here, a few houses there. Sometimes it gets missed, but people complain all the time. But a lot of times they don't realize how difficult the job is of a sanitation worker. Like while I'm sleeping, you could hit a truck, and I happen to like the noise of the truck at night. A lot of my constituents don't like the noise because I feel like someone is watching the street. I feel more safe that the men and women of the sanitation are out there working, and actually not only working but patrolling the streets while I'm sleeping. And it could be cold, it could be raining, it could be, you could have sleet, and it could be hot outside. And they are out there doing the job. And, it's so difficult to be out there and trying to be part of the weather and to dress, appropriately for what the weather, brings. And sometimes you don't know. The weather changes from one second to the next, but these guys have to be out there collecting the trash. Every single time there's a snowstorm, I always put something out. And I'm going to be very blunt and very honest that I always put something out telling my constituents, if you have any problems, contact my office, send me an email. We are there for you. We will respond. We will contact the Department of Sanitation if you have an issue on your block, if you have an issue with trash. Now, this snowstorm, I was so concerned when I put out my message asking people to call my office because, when you're vocal, when you have an elected official that is vocal about a certain issue and you put it out there, when something goes wrong, who gets blamed? It's the vocal one. Like if I didn't say anything, no one would think of me. But, it's always a chance you take. And I was so concerned because the COVID deficit had a significant impact in the budget for the Department of Sanitation with over $106 million cut in the operations funding. And because of that, I thought that, sanitation won't do a good of a job as they previously did. And I was really concerned. But I have to tell you something. You, Commissioner, you did an amazing job. The leadership that you had last night, and they told me you stayed up all night. And even with Harry Nispoli, the union, we have a great relationship, and I always support the sanitation department. And I know in the past, my district gave 2 salt spreaders for sanitation. We also gave a street sweeper, and we give additional funding every single year for MLP, for the manual litter patrol, for the men to go out and collect all the locations that have trash that's just dumped in the street, like under the train trestles in my district and other parts. So, tell us how you came, how you went, how the whole night, while you were thinking about the budget deficit, how $106 million was cut from the budget. How did you do that?
I have to tell you that first off, you mentioned the equipment that you've helped us secure over the years. You mentioned the additional support through the cleaning funds, and your dedication and your relationship with the department and your support of the men and women that work here and what they're going through, and just you're on the Sanitation and Solid Waste Committee, all of the things that you do, your dedication, you sum it up to the point of how were we successful last night? In a very, very similar vein, we love what we're doing. We put our heart and soul into the response. And yes, budget cuts do impact services. That is undoubtedly. And thanks to the support of you and some of your colleagues, we got to restore some of that service. Thanks to the support of you and some of your colleagues throughout the seasons, past, we did get additional snow pieces out there so that when we can muster a response, we have those salt spreaders that are so valuable, especially, the smaller ones and even the larger ones. I mean, you've been so supportive. We couldn't thank you enough for the relationship we have, including when you have to be vocal. That is the role that a man like yourself plays for the city. That is the man. I've been with the department. While the acting commissioner only since September, I've been with the department for over 2 decades. The work that you have done for the people of Brooklyn, for the people of the 48th, it's just amazing. You care so much, and then we care so much. Having budget restraints does come into play, and they will come into play with regard to things like the litter basket service and the collection service and some delays that we'll experience because of a snowfall event like this. But one thing, you mentioned the union, you mentioned the men and women and their dedication level. I have to tell you, that's when snow is the time when the sanitation department and hurricanes and natural disasters and other emergency events, that is the time for the men and women of this job who go out there and serve the public every day. We take it so seriously, and we just put on our best. We come to work ready to give all of ourselves to the mission to make sure that the men and women that we are plowing the streets for, your constituents, all New Yorkers, that we can do all we can to make them safe during snow. Why were we successful last night? The forecast came in. It was as bad as they said it was going to be in intensity. The winds were there. The dedication and the commitment of the men and women who serve this job, the dedication and commitment particularly of the command staff in Brooklyn South. I know you speak to the borough chief there. I know that you know your local district officers and your local district people from the community boards that are being serviced and inside the 48th that you work with. And I got to tell you, it's that hands-on, that dedication level coming from your staff, your team, from the teams out that I have, and from our department servicing the public. That's what gets the job done. And budget cuts, they come in, they hurt. We're all getting through this pandemic together. What a year we've been having, and with support like yours and with the rest of the city just trying to come together. We knew that this first event, we knew we had to be everything we could be for the public. We always try to be, but specifically on this one.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, Councilman, I just need to say something. Commissioner, I'm one of the councilman's constituents, and actually I've been living upstate, but I decided to chance it and come in for the snowstorm rather than staying upstate. And I have to tell you, it was the smartest decision I ever made, because our streets are so clean, and I'm just listening to you, and the idea that you were up all night, and you're so full of energy and so vibrant. It is so great to have a new commissioner on the sanitation department that cares so much. And Councilman, I am so happy that I came into the city just to bear this storm.
And Feg, I just want to tell you that there's a lot of different agencies that elected officials work with, and when we send emails to agencies, you don't always get a response right away. Like when there's an issue, a constituent issue, if someone has a problem with something, and I just want to give a shout out to Henry Earhart. When we send the commissioner's office an email, it gets responded to like literally, I have to say, within seconds. Okay, we're going to look into it. And that doesn't only get responded to, it gets resolved. I don't think I ever had in the last almost 7 years that an email went to the Department of Sanitation that was not responded to within seconds, like literally seconds, and it was not resolved. And they all get resolved. And also, like you mentioned, Commissioner, the Deputy Chief, Christopher, I think his name is Leonoris.
Chris Linares, yes. Yeah,
and he's amazing. And, your whole staff, and it's so, the dedication that we see from the men of the men who are out there in the streets and the women who work for sanitation, it's really unwavering, and it's good to see. It's good to see.
Yeah, we're committed to you, and we are committed. And I have to tell you, Henry's amazing. He's been with the department. He cares so much. And when him and his team, when they get those intake calls, and they're just like, it's something. We're a response agency. By nature, we come out with a plan to get the refuse and recycling and cleaning and all the things that we do on a plan. And a lot of times, then we have to respond to things that are outside the norm, or outside the plan, or the unexpected. And we like to meet the dedication of the people like yourself who care. Your staff, it cares. You care. You're always showing that continually over and over again, and that's how we can meet enthusiasm. And how can I be up all night and meet you tonight on this call with enthusiasm? Because I'm always going to talk to someone. When you meet like-minded people who care about this city, care about Brooklyn, care about their constituents, and just want it to be as best as it can be. I was listening, naturally on the way, on the lead up to our conversation, and one of the lines that had me cracking up was, "That's what a code is for." And what I mean is that realistic I'm a New Yorker, I'm a Brooklynite, it's cold, I'm going to put a coat on, and we're going to get through this together. It's that kind of commitment, that kind of personality, that kind of leadership that we need, especially now in times like this, in the pandemic. So we appreciate our relationship with you, Councilman. We appreciate the relationship with your staff, how much you do to every day show how much you care for the people that you serve, to be their voice, to be what they need to be. It's just great.
Isn't that really the truth, Commissioner? That Councilman Deitch is just really there. It's his enthusiasm that makes everybody else want to work as hard as he's working. He's just amazing.
He is, and it's absolutely true.
So thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much. And I just want to give a shout-out also to Chief John Imbrielli, who's been working with my staff. And I just want to let my constituents know that if you have any issues with sanitation, you could always reach out to my office, and they have been really amazing when issues come up. So once again, we're listening to Commissioner Grayson, Acting Commissioner for the New York City Department of Sanitation. I want to thank you for joining us. Get some rest, get some sleep. I'll keep an eye on the road while you're sleeping.
Thank you, Councilman. It's been a great joining you on the show tonight. And for all your listeners and for everyone out there, happy Hanukkah. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And Dr. Fay, he was like really passionate about his job. What do you think?
Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. He sounds like you. That's exactly how you sound all the time. It's really true. We're all a reflection of you. Like, his passion is really because you are so passionate.
And you could hear it. You could hear it in his voice. It's just so nice to know that you have people in government, because most of the time we have no faith in government anymore, right? But when you see people who are so passionate about their job and how they respond, it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel more relaxed.
It does. It really puts a smile on my face. He really made me feel good. Maybe, he should he's great. I'm thinking of all the people that make us feel so awful in government. But he was fabulous, and he made us feel amazing. He's great.
And as a constituent, you make me feel great, too, because I get so many, sometimes you get nasty text messages or emails. But, listening to you, I feel great.
But it's true. It's true. I woke up this morning, and the trucks were there. And really, I always know that I could always call you, Councilman, always. And there was no reason to call you. The trucks were coming up and down the streets. They were doing their thing. And I feel bad. I should have called you and just said to you, thank you so much. The street looks really nice, and I really appreciate it. We all really appreciate you because you have so much passion. We love it. Thank you.
And we're we're all gonna appreciate our next two guests who are gonna be on. During COVID, many people have lost employment. And I made a commitment 3 weeks ago that every week we're going to be speaking about job opportunities. And last week and a few weeks before that, we had employers come on speaking about what job opportunities they have available. And we gave out the email addresses for people to send in resumes. And I think now is the time we all need to come together and to find those who don't have jobs, to find them employment. And I just want to tell people that don't be embarrassed to work in any kind of job. I used to make pizza, Faggy, right? I used to make pizza. I worked in a pizza shop, right? Some people will say, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to work behind the counter. No. If you have to support your family, take any job. And our next guest, we're going to be listening to Lakeisha Bowers. She's from Workforce One, and she's going to be discussing about different job opportunities that people could apply for. So we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you for tuning in to
TCN Talk Live Network Radio, America's #1 Jewish program.
Tonight's broadcast of Chaim on the Radio is also graciously sponsored by Kosher Palace Supermarket, located at 2818 Avenue U at the corner of East 29th Street in Brooklyn. Kosher Palace has been serving the community for over 20 years. They are a one-stop, full-service supermarket featuring everything you need, all at one location. From kosher groceries, fruits, vegetables, fresh meat, chicken, fish, sushi, fresh, delicious takeout, and so much more. They have it all at the greatest prices and the friendliest service in town. Kosher Palace is located at 2818 Avenue U, corner East 29th Street. plenty of free parking available. Check out their weekly specials. For delivery or more information, call them at 718-743-1900. That's 718-743-1900, or email them at orders@kosherpalaceonline.com. Palace Kosher Supermarket is a proud sponsor of Chaim on the radio and urges you to listen every Thursday night at 10 p.m. to Councilman Chaim Deutsch and his informative program. BDL BioDiagnostic Laboratories Incorporated is a fully automated and computerized medical laboratory serving New York and New Jersey and is licensed by the New York State and New York City Departments of Health as well as the State Department of Health of New Jersey and Connecticut. BDL offers rapid COVID testing, quantitative and qualitative antibody testing with results available via portal and email within 24 hours. Testing is available at their Brooklyn location, or they come to you, including to shuls, yeshivas, and organizations. Doctors can also benefit from BDL services. Be safe and get tested. BDL Labs is located at 2115 Avenue X in Brooklyn. To schedule a COVID testing at your shul, yeshiva, or medical practice, please call BDL Labs at 718-646-6000. That's 718-646-6000. BDL BioDiagnostic Laboratories is a proud sponsor of Chaim on the radio. Are you getting headaches at home or displaying symptoms of allergies? Tired of that funky smell invading your home but don't know where it's coming from? The chances are that you might have mold. Mold grows in your walls and ceilings. It's important to take action fast. Ari's Mold Removal has been helping homeowners for over 20 years and will check out your home with their experienced professional testers. They're experts in mold removal and are here to help you. Listen to Ari's Hanukkah special. Now you can have your entire home tested for only $129, a $100 savings over the regular price of $229. And that's not all. If you do have mold, they will deduct $129 inspection fee off the entire job. So don't wait. Call Ari's Mold Removal at 718-336-7500. That's 718-336-7500.
Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community.
Here is your host.
Welcome back, and you're listening to Chaim on the Radio, 620 on your AM dial. I'm live here on the air with my co-host, Dr. Faizak Chaim. In the last several months, we've spoken a lot about unemployment during COVID, and with so many New Yorkers out of a job, agencies like Workforce One Career Center are usually important to helping get residents back to work. And as our listeners know, we have made a point to highlight open positions in local businesses for our listeners. And tonight we are pleased to welcome Lakeisha Bowers, Community Partner Coordinator for Workforce One. Lakeisha has been a real pleasure to work with, and she has helped connect many employers and employees in our district and beyond. So thank you for joining us, Lakeisha.
Thank you. Good greetings all. Thank you, Councilman Deutsch. It's a pleasure to be speaking tonight on behalf of Workforce One.
Thank you so much, and happy holidays to you. And it's really, I have to say that my chief of staff, we collect resumes in my office, and I send whatever resumes, when I meet people, they're looking for jobs, I ask them to email me a resume. And then usually you send an elected official a resume, you don't hear back. I give it to my chief of staff, and she responds right away, and she tries to connect them to different jobs that we get, throughout the year in our office. So it's so important to connect people, especially during this time. So let's speak about a little bit about Workforce One, what Workforce One is, and how do potential employees contact Workforce One, and how we can help our New Yorkers.
Absolutely. Thank you again. So Councilmember Deutsch just mentioned, my name is Lakeisha Bowers, and I'm the Community Partner Coordinator for the Coney Island Workforce One Center, located at 1906 Mermaid Avenue here in Brooklyn. Just a little information about Workforce One. Workforce One is a free service provided by the New York City Department of Small Business Services to prepare and connect 18 years of age and older to employment opportunities across New York City. Our center is of a network, of 18 Workforce One career centers across all 5 boroughs, including our 2 sector centers, which is our industrial center for warehouse employment and healthcare center for all healthcare employment. Under normal circumstances, anyone 18 years or older could visit one of the Workforce One career centers. For the moment, we are only offering virtual services. For more information about the services that we provide, you can always visit us at www.nyc.gov/workforce1.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll let you ask questions, and then I'll go into what we do.
So, like, in other words, if someone wants to connect to some type of job to see if there's any job opportunity, right? So they can't walk into the office now during COVID. So how would one find out what job opportunities are available?
Yes, they will go on our website, and again, that's www.nyc.gov/workforce1. The first thing you would do to become a member of Workforce One is going online to register, because unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we are not in the office. We're working virtual. So you'll go online and you'll register. Once you register, someone will reach out to you, my colleague, and if you're job ready, for the job ready customers, there are immediate employment as we speak. We have our account managers who will meet with the candidate virtual to discuss employment.
So what kind of job, how does Workforce One get these job opportunities? How does it work?
So we have account managers that go and do business development. They'll meet with different employers to see their hiring needs, and then we'll help them prepare the candidates for the opportunities. So if a candidate needs a resume or to upgrade a resume or want to interview prep, we have career advisors that assist with that and would invite you to a workshop.
And once they, like if someone goes on the website, it's www.nyc.gov/workforce1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Now they would go on, they would register, and then someone will call them back, and then the person would say, okay, I'm looking for, my experience is in this field, and then you would search to see if you have anything in that field. If not, you would offer them something else, like what you do have.
Right. So what we'll do, we'll ask them for a resume. They can email it to us, so we can look over the resume, see the experience that, they have. We'll talk to them about the opportunities they have available, what experience what opportunities they're looking for, and then that's how there'll be a match. If they have an opportunity, if we have an opportunity that they're looking for, we'll then give them a referral to meet with the employer.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. And I know that how amazing Workforce One is because we did connect people to jobs working with you and Workforce One. And I just want to tell our listeners how important it is. So if you are looking for employment or if you know someone that's looking for a job, please have them registering by going on to www.nyc.gov/workforce1. And just go on there and register, and then you'll have a caseworker returning your call. If you need to update your resume or make a resume, they are available to do that. So this is so important. So people, don't sit back. If you know someone that is looking for a job, give them a hand, make a phone call, and you have people like Lakeisha Bowers who is ready, willing, and able to help people. So Lakeisha, thank you so much. You're very informative.
I want to hop in for a minute, Lakeisha. I think this is amazing. I actually teach at NYU. I teach in the social work school, and a lot of my students are looking for part-time jobs in order to pay for their education, in order to pay for their residences, and all of that. So are there part-time jobs available as well, or are they all full-time jobs?
Yes, we have full-time and part-time opportunities available. So once the opportunity, my colleagues talk about the job, they'll let them know if there's a part-time or full-time opportunity before we send them out. But I also wanted to just go over 2 more points about Workforce One. And for our veteran community, we also have Priority One services. If you have served at least 1 day active on any branch of the U.S. military or currently married to or a widower of a U.S. service member, we have a dedicated veteran specialist. that can
that is
assist with
amazing.
opportunities.
I actually have a student that is a vet that's in social work school, and he is looking for a job. His name is Mohammed Hassan. Great guy.
Perfect.
And that would be great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Also, Workforce One, we have many things of opportunities. Workforce One also have an employment works component with dedicated staff to assist re-entry population. And lastly, Workforce One has a provision to have a community partner program. I'm a community partner coordinator, and that program is a liaison between the local community, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, universities, colleges, and elected officials.
Wow.
Amazing.
Truly amazing.
That's
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we need to take advantage of this, and it's so important for people to know, because, you have a lot of different things happening throughout the city. You have agencies that do different types of work, but when the information doesn't get out there and people don't know, it's like it doesn't exist. So
could you tell me the link one more time, because I'm sending it out as you're talking, I'm writing. What is the link?
Yes, it's www.nyc.gov/workforce1, the number 1.
Great, amazing. Thank you.
That's fabulous. You're welcome. And if anyone have any additional questions, comments, you can email me anytime to L Bowers, that's BOWERS, at GrantAssociatesInc.com.
Me. Another passionate person on the phone.
Another one. There we go. We have full of passionate people. Yeah, we have. It's amazing. Lakeisha Bowers, thank you so much. And to our listeners, you're listening to Lakeisha Bowers, Community Partner Coordinator for Workforce One. So if you are looking for a job, or you know someone looking for a job, please sign up to www.nyc.gov/workforce1, number 1. So, Lakeisha, thank you so much. I want to wish you and your family a happy holiday season, and stay safe and stay warm. Thank you so much, Lakeisha.
Thank you for having us. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you. Great having you. Great, thank you. Our final guest for this evening is very important guest, and I should have put him on first because I'm afraid of him. I think he carries a weapon. But he's the treasurer of the New York City Police Benevolent Association, the PBA. The PBA represents approximately 24,000 cops in New York City. And the PBA is never afraid to say it like it is. If you follow their Twitter handle, you'll see never afraid of anything, and provides real insight into the job of a police officer in New York City in 2020. And we talk on the show a lot about the dangerous anti-police rhetoric that has become more and more prevalent in the last few years. NYPD cops have literally been murdered as a result of the dangerous and unjustified hate that cops are subjected to. That dangerous rhetoric has seeped into government, with many elected officials speaking against the very cops that keep them safe. And I have colleagues who say, we don't want any cops. And just today I heard one of my colleagues say, we want cops. So make up your minds, guys and girls, make up your minds. And in the late spring and early summer of 2020, the defund the police movement became popular. I'm sure everyone heard about it and saw it in the news. And unfortunately, the majority of the city council voted on a budget that defunded the police department at a time when violence and shootings were on the rise across the city. And if you're wondering how the defunding worked out, well, let's just say that New York City is ending the year with the most shootings we've had in 14 years. It's a tragedy that is only amplified by the complete disregard for these consequences that we see in government officials who impose them. And people need to look at their elected officials to see how they voted on the budget. I personally voted against the budget because of the defunding part. They wanted to defund NYPD by more than $1 billion. And $1 billion were cut from the NYPD in June of 2020, and that included that cut was funding for the NYPD's homeless outreach. And this unit was directly responsible and trained to speak with homeless individuals in the street, to assist them in obtaining shelter, and also to handle situations that potentially need intervention. For example, I just want to tell our listeners, a couple of years ago, there was a group of homeless men who would sit outside a train station in our district, and that was on Sheepshead Bay Road, and harass women who got off the train for money. Not only that, many of them had mental illness, and they just went out there and really not just asking for money, but just harassing people coming and off the trains, walking past, the train under the train trestle. And many of these women gave them cash because they were terrified, they were afraid, and I was able to get the local police involved in that case. We had over a dozen homeless people on Sheepshead Bay Road in my district when I first got elected. And it was only working with the NYPD and Department of Homeless Services that we were able to not only get them off the street, but get them into shelter and get them into living into a regular apartment with mental health resources. And I could just point out there was one person there who really had a mental health issue, and he was there for years. And working with the NYPD and Homeless Outreach, we were able to get him into an apartment. We were able to get him to have a regular apartment with the resources. And you look at him today, the feedback I received from Department of Homeless Services was he's doing great. Homeless outreach often doesn't require police presence. But when it does, there needs to be trained police personnel who are able to intervene. And that's why a bill that the City Council heard in committee yesterday was so shocking to me, and that's what we're going to discuss today. Several of my colleagues are sponsoring legislation that would prohibit the NYPD from having contact with homeless people. And to quote NY Commissioner Dermot, this bill is insulting to police. To speak more about this and policing in general, we welcome tonight Patrick Hendry, Treasurer of the New York City Police Benevolent Association. So welcome, Patrick.
Good evening, Councilman.
Oh, I think I hope I didn't give up your speech over here. Well, I want to thank you.
Sir?
I hope I didn't give up your whole...
Oh, no, thank you, sir, for having me on tonight.
But I just want to say that, my district in particular, we are like one of the biggest supporters of the NYPD, and we want cops. We want cops patrolling our streets. We want to be safe. And all the rhetoric that you've been hearing over the last year, and that's been really concerning. Especially now with so many homeless people out on the street, we need the work of the NYPD, of the officers, because we can't rely on someone to go out there, social worker, without being threatened by someone who has a mental illness. So what is your reaction to this bill and to the anti-police rhetoric in general?
Well, jobs like the homeless outreach landed on cops' laps because the rest of the government has failed. If you're going to ban police officers from dealing with the homeless, what is the plan? Who will do this work instead? The rest of the government is still failing. Spending on homeless has more than doubled under the de Blasio administration. Despite all the new spending, the problem has only grown. Number of total homeless has hit a record high, as you know. Nearly 4,000 New Yorkers sleeping on the street each night. And under this bill, they're giving cops two choices. Arrest that person who's sleeping out in the cold, or walk away, ignore them. I've been a police officer for more than 27 years. You take this job to help people. We don't just walk away. That's not what a police officer does. So this bill makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, if you go into my district, and, I'm not going to speak about other areas, but on my district right now, I just spoke about Sheepshead Bay Road, and thankfully that has been resolved over the years. If you go to Brighton Beach, or you go some parts of Ocean Parkway in my district, even out of my district, all around, you see people just laying on the street. And when you call 911 or you call 301, I'm sorry, the cop, like even now, they're tying the hands of the police officers from doing anything. And like you said, like when a cop drives by a homeless person, what's going to happen? You're going to have to ignore that person living on the street or staying in the street.
Yes, the bill makes no sense, Councilman. And, this is not a problem of the police officers to solve. This is the job of the mayor and yourself and the colleagues in City Council. Our job is simple when we go out. We're there to help a person who's sleeping on the street get shelter or help that person get treatment. That's what a police officer's job is. We don't just walk away. We're out there to help people, and that's what a police officer does, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah, you mentioned mayor. We still have a mayor?
Well, he's still in office, sir.
Oh, yeah? Haven't noticed. Haven't noticed. So tell us about, what are some of the factors contributing, additionally to what I spoke about before, the defunding of the NYPD, the rise in the violent shootings in the city. And, we had, like even in Sheepshead Bay, we had, I think we had 2 shootings. And we're fortunate. We're one of the safest neighborhoods. The areas I represent is majority the 61st Precinct. Deputy Inspector Saliba, he's an amazing person, very proactive. And I have a portion of the 70th Precinct and also a portion of the 60th Precinct. So, we're fortunate to have one of the safest areas. In 2016, I think we were number 1 to the safest precinct was the 6-0 in all 77 precincts. We were number 1. That was under Deputy Inspector William Taylor, and he was really a proactive person. So what are you seeing, and what do you see in the future of what's happening in regards to the rise in crime and the violent shootings throughout the city?
Well, what does defund the police actually mean? That to me, that means less police officers on the street. And as we saw what happened last week at St. John's Church up in Manhattan, mm-hmm. What happens if there weren't police officers able to respond to that location? What happens, if they weren't there? What would have happened with that gunman firing shots in the air, possibly going into that church? And there was no police officers able to respond. Thankfully, we had hero police officers that were there who did an incredible job.
Yeah, I watched that video. I thought I was watching Blacklist.
They did an incredible job, and that's what police officers do. They're skilled, they're trained, and that's what we do. We help people, and they did an incredible job that day. And what happens if they weren't there? That's why this defund the police movement makes no sense whatsoever. And there was an incident that happened just before Thanksgiving in the 105 precinct where 2 police officers responded to a case with a female who needed help on a domestic and went to the house, and this man came out shooting. What happens if there was 2 social workers that showed up at that location? What would have happened that day? But thank God our 2 hero police officers that were there that day, and unfortunately they were both shot, and they're doing better. But that's what police officers do each and every day, and we don't understand this defund the police movement.
So what is your message, Patrick, to all our listeners, and we have listeners throughout the city, not only in my district. What is your message to all the listeners of what role can they play to send a message back to government, to their elected officials, that we want our police to patrol and police our city? And we want to go back to and I remember the late 80s, early 90s. Many are too young to remember. But I remember when you used to walk outside and you used to see a car theft right in front of you. You didn't have to look far. And crime happened right in front of you. And I feel like we're moving towards that direction. So what message and what role could our listeners play to help the New York City Police Department and send a message to our mayor or to our governor and all elected officials?
Well, we need the support of the public. We need the public to speak out and tell this mayor that we need police. We need police on the street. We need police officers to do their job. We need the support of the public to be there for us. Because right now, this anti-police movement, police officers are out in the street and being demonized for wearing the uniform and the shield that we're also proud to wear. And they've made it impossibly and very difficult for police officers to do their job with these anti-police bills. As you know, if a police officer accidentally puts his knee or on the stomach of a person, they could be arrested for a misdemeanor. So all these anti-police bills, it made it impossible for police officers to do their job. And we need support from the public. We need to speak out and support the NYPD.
And it's very unfortunate because I don't see the way I don't see the next council, after many council members are term limited, that the next council will be any better. So people need to really look at the candidates who are running for office and stand behind those candidates who are pro-protection, pro-police. And it became very popular, especially these days. People should not support police, and this is the DSA, the Democratic Socialists. These are the liberals. They don't want to see cops. And we need to send a message to the more conservative people, the people who have the common sense, who know that we need to be protected. And, we all agree that there needs to be some type of police reform. And there was so much reform over the last 7 years in the city council. What do you want to do now? You want to take away the guns? I saw a candidate running for office who said yesterday that cops should not have guns. They should not have weapons. And those two incidents you just mentioned, if there was no weapon, right, people would have been killed on the street.
Yes.
So, really, to all our listeners, don't rely on your elected official to be your voice all the time. You need to stand up. You need to speak out. You really need to get the message out. Don't think someone else is going to be doing the work for you, because let me tell you right now, I'm going to tell you a little secret now. No one will. Okay? That's a secret. And you got to stand up for yourself and hold your elected official accountable. And whether you have a city councilman, a state assembly member, a state senator, or Congress member, just because one of the different branches of government is more vocal, don't think that's the only person representing you. They all represent you. And you need to hold everyone accountable. So I want to thank you. You're listening to Patrick Hendry, treasurer of the PBA, the police union. So thank you, Patrick, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Councilman, for having me.
Thank you. I want to wish you a happy holiday, and to all our listeners, until next week, Shabbat Shalom, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to all.